American people, this is the State of the Union of the No Time. I don't think so. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you're not. This is Brazil. Family. ये है No Time. ये जो देश है. What am I doing? Family. It's time. This is No Time. What? Family. It's time. It's time. I think it's time. Let's bring it home, boys. Let's bring it home. It's time. Let's bring it home. This is part 1 of the 50th episode special of No Time. अरे कितनी मेहनत कराते हो यार. This is part 2 of this 5-part series where I look back on some of the most powerful ideas, concepts, and stories that we have come across in the 50 episodes so far. So without much further ado, let's dive into the second list. Are you still watching? Are you watching closely? The trick surprises no one. In the first clip, I have Virgin Radio's Brent Black, who explores the idea of radio being an art form and how you can really become a good radio presenter. In the second clip, I have Scientific Tamilian's co-founder Nirmal Raja, who explores how dinosaurs went extinct. In the third clip, I have real estate guru Anthony Joseph, who dives deep into the psychology of sales and how you can really become a good salesman. In the fourth clip, I have architecture professor Sai Latif, who introduces the phenomenon that is known as the Bilbao effect. In the fifth clip, I have my good friend Suneet, who introduces the concept of design fiction or speculative design. In the sixth clip, I have really popular grey model Caroline Labouche, who talks about how we need to really change our language around aging. In the seventh clip, I have Gautam Goenka, co-founder of the Junction Theatre and grandson of the highly respected S.N. Goenka, who introduces Vipassana meditation and talks about its benefits. In the eighth clip, I have Yogi Anjan, who introduces the idea of Kundalini and what it is and what it does. In the ninth clip, I have artist and musician Shibani, who talks about how Iraq was the home that was snatched away from her and shares a really powerful story. And finally, in my last clip, I have Indian media legend, Bollywood icon, Roshan Abbas, who really dissects how you can become a good storyteller and use good storytelling to engage your audience. This is No Time. If you like what you see, then do hit subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, or rate 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. It's been 2 years, 50 episodes. You guys should know the drill by now. This project is a labor of love, so if you'd like to see it continue, then do consider making a donation on Patreon, Anchor, Instagram. Pick your poison. If not through monetary channels, then do consider sharing these episodes, leaving your likes and comments. All your engagement really goes a long way. For other forms of love and support, you can follow this channel on Instagram or Twitter, or follow me personally. And now, Shalaj, it's No Time.
You've tweeted in the past that being on radio is very similar to acting. It requires a lot of passion and a lot of skill to get really good at it. Do you view it as an art form?
Is it art? Yes, because I feel like, and you're right, I said that not too long ago about there was some sort of weird internet drama going on. And I said, look, radio is a passion. It is something you do that is creative. It is I just said a bit ago, we are entertainers. I guess if you're doing it right, you should be somewhat entertaining, right? And it's a creative endeavor. And so, it's an art form, definitely. If you're not considering it an art, you're probably not very good. And I'm very critical, and I'm very critical of myself. I will say I'm also pretty critical of other people who do this job, and I feel bad. I don't feel bad for the person doing it because everybody's in a different stage of their development doing this job. It's as long as you're trying to grow, as long as you're trying to get better. I feel bad for people who are listening. I feel bad for the community when there's not a really vibrant, good amount of options to choose from. I'm hesitant to say. I mean, I'm biased. I really feel like Chris and what he's done with Priti and Rossi and the whole team on the morning show, on the Chris Fade show. I feel like they are the best, most entertaining option on radio in this country. And I really wish that there was more. I really wish that people would try a bit harder. I mean, there are things being done, but very rarely do I find anything that's terribly memorable. on the radio, and I wish for the community. Again, I'm saying this for the community, is I think Dubai and the UAE is just such an amazing community, and it has embraced me and given me so many opportunities, and it's incredible to see what I have become because of this place. I feel like it deserves more, and so I'd love to see more chances being taken, more thought going into every day. Forget every day or every hour, every break. Just go into what you do with passion and realize that you're putting on a performance, and people deserve to be entertained, especially right now, with this world, with this current, this is what we live in. It's good to take people out of that and give them some sort of entertainment, information, joy that they need, just to escape whatever's going on in your life right now.
What do you think are some of the most challenging aspects about being on radio that, like you mentioned, not many people are able to do it or not able to get the right kind of skill? What do you think are those elements that people need to get past?
What's holding you back? What is holding you back? Right. Thinking that you need to be something that you're not is the biggest thing. I've mentioned that you need to find your voice and be natural. That's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And I always tell people, I've kind of trained people or tried to mentor, or whatever you want to call it, people over the years. I think I'm okay at it. But the hardest thing is to get in front of a microphone and start talking to yourself, but imagining you're talking to one person, because something about radio, you don't want to talk to a lot of people. And I hear people make this mistake a lot. Hello, Emirates, or you guys, or you always want to talk directly to one person, because for the most part, radio is not a team sport. Radio is something you do alone. And if you have someone with you, you're probably not engaged. You might be listening to the music together or whatever, but it's sort of in the background. Maybe you might turn it up to listen, but for the most part, you want to talk to one person to make sure that person feels like I am talking to you. That is a very simple thing that you learn in radio. Sadly, a lot of people don't do it, but that's something that you should do in radio. That voice that you have created, that personality, takes so much effort to forget that you're just in a room alone on this microphone talking to one person. You get almost this glaze over your eyes when you're doing it, and you're not even looking. You might be looking in a direction. You're not looking in that direction. You're just kind of imagining that person listening to you right now. And so right now, I'm not even looking at you. I'm just kind of talking about this. And if I'm talking about this story or whatever, I'm trying to keep my voice the same natural tone it is, but at the same time, a little more energetic. And that is, I will say, the hardest thing holding you back is just letting go of trying to be someone who you're not and do all those things at once. So try to be natural. Don't try to be funny. You can be funny without trying to be funny, if that makes any sense. If you're not a funny person, don't overdo it, because it's not going to come across as legitimate. You're going to kind of seem... There's so many stumbling blocks that can make you seem like a fraud on the radio. You have no idea until you do it. It's like, that wasn't me at all. That I just did that 30-second break about whatever company or whatever hotel, and none of it was me. You got to figure out ways of making things yourself, making things flow with your personality, whatever your personality is. Unless you're just not a very nice person, in which case I recommend not being that person.
Or not being on the radio.
I think that's really what it comes down to. If you're kind of, I don't know, if you're I don't want to say anything. If you're not a great person, maybe work on that first before getting into the media.
Topics of interest, I would say. I wouldn't say it's a mystery anymore. Is how the dinosaurs, or the terrestrial dinosaurs, or just the land dinosaurs, went extinct. I hope I'm using the right words. And while there is a massive crater in Mexico that validates that there was a meteor impact, there is still debate about it, whether they were on the decline or whether it was an actual instant event that caused it. So where do you stand on this? What do you think was the most likely cause?
So basically, most of the fossils that I find every year, is in a southern state called Tamil Nadu. There's a place called Arilur and Perambulur. There are two districts that has a lot of Cretaceous deposits. So basically, you can actually go around and find fossils of animals that lived by the end time, by the time when the Cretaceous period ended. One strange thing is like there is a researcher from Princeton University called Greta Keller. So she has a very interesting theory that it's not only the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, but there are multiple impact events and other factors that kill the dinosaurs. So basically what she says is like the Deccan traps, if we just go to Maharashtra, the Mumbai area, you can actually see the huge Deccan eruptions that happened like the end of the Cretaceous period. So where I stand is like when you just go take a core, so geologists actually drill a core and remove a slice of the rock. So they can actually see the core and
like something like this, maybe
something like that one. So they can actually understand what really happened in the past. So basically, there is a thing called KT boundary or KPG boundary, Cretaceous Paleogene boundary. So this is a dense clay layer that you can actually find all around the world. So they found in Gubbio in Italy, they found in US, they found in other parts of the world. So basically, when the huge asteroid struck Earth, it threw a lot of iridium in the atmosphere, and it started settling down. And at one point, you can actually see one fine layer of clay rich in iridium, and then after that you don't see any dinosaur bones above that one. So that kind of marks the end of the dinosaurs. But in this case, like you don't see the KT boundary in India. So even in North India you can actually see it, but Southern India you can't really see the KT boundary. So what Keller and other workers have said, something that I would really like to believe, is that the Deccan volcanism made things much more worse. So people think all the dinosaurs went extinct 66 million years ago, but dinosaurs were already in the point of decline even before that one. Some dinosaurs were already going extinct. But what I think is like the Deccan volcanism might have changed the climate so drastically. The dinosaurs were already in the path to decline, and the asteroid made it worse. It was more like a final nail in the coffin. So things are already worse, and then you have it's more like we are halfway through the COVID pandemic, and imagine like if there is one more virus that like turns up, that's going to just like mess up things. So it's just like things were already bad, and the asteroid made it much more worse.
In the book, The Rise and Fall of Dinosaurs, there's a similar argument where they say that from what they found is that even vegetation was on the decline. It's just seasonal things that were happening on Earth, and as a result, the herbivores dinosaurs were on the decline.
Absolutely.
And there was that narrow window where the actual asteroid had impacted.
Exactly.
Because of that, those food chains didn't survive. And
True.
They say that if the asteroid had maybe impacted maybe another 100 years later or something of that sort, then they might have survived so far.
Even if the asteroid had missed it by a few kilometers, and if it had landed somewhere else, the problem is like it landed on the right. I don't know if it is a right word to say it is a right spot. It landed in the wrong spot for the dinosaurs. And the thing is, like, it landed in a place called Yucatan Peninsula, which is rich in limestone and carbonate rocks. So it's more like somebody smoking in a godown full of firecrackers. So that kind of made it absolutely worse. And the dinosaurs like literally went extinct. I mean, like if it had crashed somewhere else, like maybe they would have survived. Maybe, I mean, like although like 66 million years is like quite a lot. And maybe we might not have dinosaurs like the ones, we might have seen something else. I mean, like Troodon, some people actually even theorized like Troodon, if it had not gone extinct, would have evolved into a humanoid form and like as intelligent as humans. So yeah, wrong events, wrong chain of events, wrong place. Everything went wrong 66 million years ago.
Why do you think the birds and the frogs and the lizards and crocodiles, why did they survive?
Oh, the thing is like the evolutionary adaptation. So basically birds, they could fly away. They can move from one place to another one. And mammals, what happens is like, so extinction events is like when an event suddenly changes and the animals don't have enough time to adapt to the new environment. So they kind of die out and they don't leave enough descendants to repopulate the planet. Mammals did survive because mammals were they can actually, I mean, like they were adapted to a nocturnal life back then. I mean, like dinosaurs were big and mammals couldn't become any bigger than a normal rabbit when the dinosaurs were around. And the thing is, like, mammals survived because they can actually burrow. They survived the initial impact. And also they were scavenging, and they tend to leave more descendants than the dinosaurs did. So the environmental stress on the dinosaurs were heavy compared to the mammals and birds. So that's one of the reasons why mammals survived and the dinosaurs didn't. So there are other factors also, factors that we can never know, or we yet to know and understand why mammals survived. Mammals had this advantage over the dinosaurs during the end of the Cretaceous period. But yeah, mammals left a lot of descendants. And like, if you see the fossil record, mammals tend to become bigger after the Cretaceous period. And before that one, they were like very small because of the pressure exerted by the dinosaurs.
I think it's important to make a note that when we're talking about the asteroid impact, it's not just the impact, but also what chain of events it triggered from
Yes.
there, where there was, it caused a lot of volcanic eruptions, and then it caused a lot of gases to rise and block out the sun.
Absolutely.
And it was complete change in climate for all the dinosaurs that were adapted to a certain climate, and they died out. And more importantly, even for the plants that were in that point. So the vegetation started to die out, and then the dinosaurs that fed on that. As a result, the entire food chain started collapsing. So it was not just that one event.
It is a multiple event. I mean, like, some people even say it's a multiple impact event. It's not a one single impact. So basically, when the asteroid entered the Earth's atmosphere, it started splitting up into several pieces, and it fell in different parts of the world. And only Yucatan Peninsula, the crater survived. The Chicxulub crater survived. And some people even say there is a crater near Mumbai called Shiva crater. And some people even say that like Shiva crater been dated back to Cretaceous period. Some people say like asteroid split into two big pieces. One landed in India, where already the Deccan volcanism was worse, and the other one landed in Yucatan Peninsula. But like we are yet to find more evidences for all these claims. So as of now, the Chicxulub crater impact model stands high.
How do you handle rejection from clients? And you've spoken in the past, when you were in your first one in Dubai, when you were surviving on 10 dirhams a month, you used to walk a lot of distances, carry 2 shirts because you will sweat so much, and then change it over there. And a lot of times the client doesn't show up. He just says, oh, I can't make it. And then you walk back again, having not met the client. In general, in sales, I feel there's a very high amount of rejection every day. You might face less because you're very good at it, but the rest of us, we might get a lot of rejection on a daily basis. How do you deal with that?
Listen, back then, why did I face lots of rejection? Because I didn't know what qualifying a client is. I didn't know. I didn't have the knowledge that I have today when it comes to the market analysis, the history of the city. I didn't know the tone of the people. What does it mean? If like lots of people tell you, yes, I'm gonna meet you, but it's a definite no. But back then for me, yes, it was, yay, I got a meeting. So that's why I used to have all of these issues, you know. And back then, if you ask me how I used to handle it, it was sad. It was tiring. It was, I'm looking at the skies and I'm saying, why? Like, what did I ever do in my life to deserve this? But I'll tell you what happened to me. I lived all of my life. By the way, back home, I was living very good. I had the cars, I had the lifestyle, the clothes, everything, but I had no future or a career. So for me, letting everything go, especially my comfort zone, my mother, my friends, my family, my everything, it was very tough. But what happened when I came in here, and every day I had the devil's sound which was telling me, you're better than that. You don't need to live like that. Go back home. At least your food is secured. Everything is secured and you can make it again back home. So I was having this daily battle that, and every day nothing was coming to make it easier for me. It was harder. People were talking to me with, lots of disrespect. I was getting phone hang up in my face. I was getting it all. But I said, I'm never going back there. I am here. I need to count on myself. I'm not asking no one for help, and I'm gonna make it no matter what.
In general, I think being in sales can be a very humbling experience, because every single day, no matter how big you get, there might be one client who will just reject you, and once again you feel like, oh, you're not good enough, or you're not
Listen,
able to
the
close.
rejection comes for a reason. Let me tell you something. There is sales and they're solving problems. If you see this industry as I am selling a house, yeah, you can fail 50%, you can succeed 50%. If you are here to solve a problem, you will succeed 100%. And if you do it not caring for your commission, nothing can stop you. 2014, 15, and 16, I was answering every phone call, helping everyone and just on the phone without meeting them. And I've never got anything out of it. But guess what? These people know people that they wanted to buy or to sell or to flip or to get the finance. They remembered me. Or like, that's a good guy. He will help you. He's professional. And I got this business. So you need to just be a person who wants to solve problems to people. Why people want to buy property in here? Europeans, they're avoiding taxes. It's very obvious. Okay. Some other people, let's say if you are from an Arabic country like Lebanon or Iraq or Syria or all of these places where you see wars right now, you're going for a second home. You know, this year, what I was selling this year, I was feeling noble doing this, because I don't know if you know the situation in Lebanon where the banks has frozen all of the money of the people. No one can take a dirham out or a dollar or a lira. So it was shocking for everyone. And so what we have done in here, we have signed up with multiple developers that we allowed people to pay manager's check in Lebanon, but obtaining a property in Dubai. When we started calling them, giving them the service, they were like, oh, they're scammers, that cannot be right. And then until they start seeing people doing it. So I'm telling you, the amount that I spent over the phone, it was that month's May and April. My screening time was 22 hours a day. Okay, that's between calls, WhatsApp, emails, and stuff. And every person I was talking to, he was breaking my heart by telling me, I've been working for 15 years, 20 years just to save this capital for my kids. And now they took it all out of me and I can barely buy food. So by me solving his problem to him, and he's obtaining a property in Dubai, he's getting money from the rental, or even selling the property again in Dubai and giving him cash. This is nobility, man. It's not I'm doing a sale here. I'm here to change his life. He got screwed from a government and I'm here to change it. So yeah, it gave me an amazing satisfaction. Just for mothers or grandmothers telling me, God bless you, you know, it makes you happy.
Beyond a job now.
Yeah, it's not, I'm telling you, it's not the sale. For me, it's not the sale at all.
Okay, let's talk about Burj Khalifa since you brought it up. Do you think there's a place for buildings like those where it's more of an iconic structure, iconism in contemporary architecture? Do you think that building, which not necessarily doesn't represent the identity of a city or a country, but it's an announcement of an ambition like we discussed earlier, do you think that has a place?
Yes, it does have a place. It has a place, and I mean, it really depends on the kind of the purpose of it, right? Like the purpose of Burj Khalifa in some sense is to put Dubai on the map. And that it does. That it does. Does every building have to be a Burj Khalifa? That's a different question. I mean, does every building need to have like this kind of iconic angle to it?
That doesn't fit a narrative necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, or the question is, how many Burj Khalifas can you have? That I think is a more difficult question.
They're making a second one now.
Yeah, they're making a second one. Yes, but it's also interesting to think about why they're doing it, why they did it in the first place, and why they want to do it again.
Why on both situations?
I think in a part of the world that has a lot of resource, like if you think of the big cities around us, Abu Dhabi, Doha, Kuwait, all of them have a lot of resource, natural resource, or any of the big cities in Saudi. They all have a lot of natural resource. And Dubai is in that kind of neighborhood of cities with a lot of natural resource, with, in some sense, quite limited resource. I mean, limited resource in the sense that limited gas reserves or oil reserves or whatever, like that. So there is a need for the city of Dubai to constantly kind of attract investment and to keep promoting itself as a place where things are happening, you know. So to that extent, even earlier when I spoke about the phases of development, the moment that Dubai started building these big projects like Burj Al Arab and Emirates Towers, that was the intention, to really announce to the world that Dubai is here. We're doing well. We're doing business. We're doing well, and it's a good place for you to invest because look, we are really growing. You know, so in that sense, architecture really is a way of promoting the city. Is almost like a marketing tool, you know, for the city. So in that same line of thinking, the Burj Khalifa was supposed to be the kind of ultimate, you know, like to build the biggest building in the world meant that like we are seriously, big or seriously into business.
Now the reason behind the Creek Tower that they're building?
So what happened at the time of the completion of Burj Khalifa, we all know it was also the time of the global kind of financial crisis. So we all saw, or the whole world saw, that Burj Khalifa really kind of struggled at the end to
Finish it
get
off.
there,
Yeah.
you know. So there was this idea that maybe, or there could have been doubts in the kind of investment circles that, okay, Dubai did it, but is it still relevant? You know? So the idea of the second tower and the idea of the expo and all that comes in my mind from that need to kind of to prove that, oh no,
It wasn't a one-time.
It wasn't a one-time thing. It's something that as a city we can invest, we can develop, we can kind of outdo what we've already done. So in that sense, yes. But if you see the two towers, okay, the second tower is supposed to be the tallest structure in the world. But if you think about it, it is also a lot more practical. In the sense, it's really just a monument. It's really like the Eiffel Tower.
Yes.
Know, in the sense that it's just a lookout tower.
The CN Tower.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's more of an observatory. So it doesn't have the kind of investment that a Burj Khalifa would have, but it would have as much an impact on the overall perception of the city. Of course, I don't know what's happening with that project because it seems to be on hold now. So do I think it's a good idea? I'm not sure. But that is the approach that the city has constantly taken, you know, to kind of define itself by creating iconic structures.
What is speculative design?
Simply put, it's a technique to reach design fiction, right? So what it means is it's a way of exploring what futures could look like by creating simple artifacts and getting the audience to sort of think and explore that further. Just understand what it means to have these artifacts in the future. So it could be anything. It could be a film, it could be a prototype, it could be something as simple as a statement, it could be a Photoshop edit, it could be a song, it could be literally, it could be an art piece. It could be anything.
So you also mentioned design fiction. Is that the same thing?
So design fiction is a practice. Speculative design is, so to be really honest, this is something that's debated in the design community, but I have come to the conclusion that design fiction is the practice, and speculative design is the technique to reach there.
Do you think speculative design is more important as a way of thinking or
Yes.
like as a thought experiment rather than the final output? So the video or the movie or the prototype that you create, that is good, but it's more important to just get you thinking about the kind of future that might exist or the trends that might be there in the future, how we might be living.
Absolutely. So I think speculative design should be used by everyone. It should be used by literally everyone, every field. Policymakers need to use speculative design. Government employees need to think of speculative futures. Everyone, investors can think about, you can use speculative design. I myself, being a small retail value investor, I use speculative design to sort of stretch the trends of today, extrapolate them into the future, and sort of figure out, okay, which companies could potentially last and what sort of services and products could potentially last. So I think speculative design should be used by everyone.
So it's more of a mental model, more of a thinking framework that you can use.
Yeah. Also, so it's not just for yourself, right? The moment you create something, you there's a potential that it could be used by someone or it could be seen by someone. So then it triggers that thought process in them as well. So that's something that is absolutely important.
Do you have to train yourself to not dismiss crazy ideas? I feel like you need this improv technique of saying yes and to every crazy idea that you come across, because it might show you a different perspective, or there might be some truth to it. Because when I was researching for this episode, I came across some really like ideas that at first I was like, this is definitely not going to happen. Something like there's a machine that you can connect to your mouth that will forage for food because there might not be much food in the future. Or Lexus was creating these cars based on your DNA. Or there was these machines that on your first date you can connect with the partner and will show you the compatibility, which would be quite useful.
Yes.
Yeah, but a lot of these ideas on first face value sound very crazy. But it feels like if you just explore them further, they might point out something to you. So do you think you need to train yourself to think that way?
To think like...
To just accept all these ideas and then try and explore them further, because it's very easy to be dismissive of it.
Even if you're dismissive, right? One thing that it lets you do is sort of critique it. And what happens in that, or when you're dismissive with a reason, right? You say why you're dismissive. Yeah. So that why is important. That needs to come out. So if you're saying, okay, this cannot happen, why it cannot happen, right? And that gets you thinking, and that gets you, even if you're an engineer who's doing a little bit of speculative design, say you're a mechanical engineer working on cars and you're doing speculative design, right? When you think of why, and you go the next day to solve some problem that you're solving in your company, yes, it makes a big difference to you. It might not come naturally, but it's definitely affecting your subconscious.
There's one particular moment in your life where you mentioned you walked inside Carrefour and you felt invisible. So what is that moment about?
I'm learning now that the majority of women have that feeling and they don't know who to speak to. Even yesterday, I had a message from a lady saying she was close to tears. She didn't know what to do. And women have not spoken about menopause. They've not spoken about having feelings of depression. I mean, lack of sex drive is a big thing. It can destroy a marriage. And if you don't know why it's happening, how can you fix it? There are 30 symptoms, and women still don't know what's going on with their bodies. So the more we speak about it, the better. And men should know too, because you should know why I don't want to have sex with you. You should know why I am depressed or was confident in going to work yesterday, but today I don't want to go. You know, they're really big issues for some women.
Yeah. So coming back to this incident in Carrefour, so were these emotions ever going through your mind at that point? Were this one...
What, no sex? Yeah, well, that was one of them.
We're just feeling invisible because of...
Feeling invisible because people just walk... I mean, it happens to everybody anyway. People just walk past you and they bump into you and they ignore you. I'm a big hello fan. So I tend to try and make eye contact with people and say hello to them anyway, wherever. And I just remember it so well, walking into that entrance in Mall of the Emirates of Carrefour and just thinking, no one looks at me anymore. Whereas maybe if I had brown hair and loads of makeup, maybe they would. And then it was kind of, okay, well, what am I going to do about this situation? And it made a big difference putting my shoulders back and walking anywhere with some kind of a feeling confident. Just walking in and people can feel, they get that vibration from you, man or woman. If you walk in sort of quietly, yes, then you're not going to be noticed. If you have a vibration coming off you, an aura of not look at me, but I am me. I'm worthy. then I think that makes a big difference.
So just so I get this right, there might be some supermarket out there, you're quite popular now, but there might be some supermarket in Quain or Russell Khema where you might not be recognized today. But if you do walk in, you will not feel invisible again because you have internally built that confidence or that aura.
Yeah, and I was never confident. I would never go out in the evening by myself without my husband. It wouldn't occur to me to get dressed up to go to an event by myself. I just would have said no. And now I generally go anywhere I'm invited because you never know what opportunity is going to be there. You could walk in and think, oh no, this isn't working, and leave, but at least you've made the effort to get out there.
The feeling invisible is not because other people are not noticing you. It's because internally, probably you don't feel like you're that confident enough or worthy enough. Is that
well, any feeling that you have is your feeling. It's you. You can say other people made you feel that way, but it's still the way you interpret it, isn't it? So you have to work on yourself and make yourself not feel that way. I did have some sessions with Andrea Zoya, and she would literally say, speak about that for 1 minute. And we went through about 15 things on camera. But you get to about 15 and you can do it. That really helps.
It's just a practice of
exactly. Yeah. And people say to me, oh, how do you I want to be a model. How can I get used to being in front of the camera? Take selfies. You're going to have 300 crap pictures, but maybe you'll have one. And just keep doing it. Look at the youngsters these days. They're doing it all day, every day. So just keep practicing.
What is Vipassana meditation?
Vipassana meditation is a form of meditation that encourages people to journey with themselves, to see things as they are, and to discover that they are the cause of their own happiness or their suffering. To kind of discover that at a experiential level, not because somebody told you so, not because a guru told you, not because you need to see something. No, it's realize you are the key to making yourself happy or unhappy. And while that sounds quite obvious, people kind of go, yeah, duh. But it's different at an experiential level. You start realizing it literally on a bodily experiential level as you meditate. So it's a 10-day retreat where you go to one of the Vipassana centers. No reading, no writing, no talking. You're cut off from the rest of the world. They take care of you. They feed you. They give you a place to sleep. And you learn the technique. And you have to complete 10 days. And the best part, there's no charges to it. There's nothing. Zero. At the end of 10 days, and only if you complete 10 days, if you want to give something, you can anonymously put something in the box. Nobody's going to ask how much you put, what you put. You don't even have to put anything. So people end up donating. So the first it breaks down your ego, because the first thing you're doing is you're sitting on somebody else's donation. You're equal to the pauper who's sitting next to you, who may not have a penny to their name, and you might be a millionaire. But it breaks your ego. It kind of tells you, listen, we're all the equal. It's not a physical form. It's a mental journey. It's what a lot of us these days have started calling mindfulness. A lot of its roots are into Vipassana. What we see is modern day meditation. Lots of roots into Vipassana. Some great stuff being done there.
Does that set it apart from these other forms of meditation? There are so many out there these days. There's transcendental, for example. So what tenets of Vipassana then do you feel set it apart from the others?
I think Vipassana is the big tenet that sets it apart is it is experiential, i.e. a lot of students get attracted and a lot of youngsters get attracted to Vipassana because they kind of go, I'm not believing it because somebody told me so. It's not about seeing something that's not there. What it gets you to a point where you realize your thoughts are affecting you at a bodily level. And you realize that in 10 days, as you're having negative thoughts, there are certain small little pricks, pins that are happening across your body. You're starting to realize, I physically start feeling worse when I am having these negative thoughts, when I'm doing this stuff, and I physically start improving as I start being positive. And whether it's positive or negative, if I just watch it, if I just observe that moment, the nature of every moment is it arises and passes away. And so you don't just believe that it arises and passes away, you experience it. If I just observe that moment, they tell you get angry, breathe for 5 seconds. Why? Because it arises and passes away. But most of the time we react positively or negatively to any stimuli, external stimuli that comes, and then thereby end up either harming ourselves or hurting ourselves or reacting in a manner. If you just observe, and that's not to say become a vegetable, but if you just observe, you tend to focus better. And that is why Vipassana, what it sets it apart is you can apply it any given day, any given time, whatever you're doing. And people start realizing that this is creating, so corporates started realizing this is creating effective, not just employees, but leaders. Because if leaders are a little more calm, they're able to breathe, they're able to deal with challenges, they're able to focus. And then they get the answer. Governments started finding, especially in the prison system where Vipassana started coming in, they started finding that prisons became rarely a revolving door for criminals, where
Recidivism.
yeah, people kind of started realizing at their own level that this is what I did, and started trying to improve their lives. And that experiment was done way around the world, right from the Alabama state prisons to Tihar jail in India.
Your grandfather's involved in that with Kiran
Yeah,
Bedi.
yeah. And Kiran Bedi's, Dr. Bedi is a big follower of Vipassana as well. And so that came into practice. And now there are permanent centers in certain jails, like Tihar jail has a permanent ongoing Vipassana presence. Many other prisons, like I said, it went over, Oprah covered it in the Dhamma Brothers documentary, where it was about the experimentation with Vipassana in the Alabama State Prison. And it worked quite well because they saw their rates go down of people just coming back as a revolving door. So it's a simple technique. There's nothing physical to it. It's about sitting. It's about observing your breath, starting off with, and then they take you through more of the technique. There's no abstract imagination. There's no repeat the guru's name. There's no gurudom to it. It's you, yourself. You are, if you're the cause of the problem, you're the solution of the problem. And you realize that yourself, which I found very liberating. Students, so, the third category is students. Universities, education institutes started finding that, hey, some of our students, when they do Vipassana meditation at a young age, they're a lot more centered. They're a lot less prone to being, when they observed it during exam times, they found students are a lot more calmer. They're able to not feel pressured as much. In fact, there's a couple of universities I know of in India. In certain programs, your admission is contingent on you completing a Vipassana course. So you're accepted into the university, and now you're going to go attend a 10-day course and come. And once you do that, they'll accept you. And because the course doesn't cost anything to do, so the university doesn't have a problem telling you, go do it. It's not going to cost you. They'll put you up, they'll feed you. But we find our students come out better. So some real tangible benefits, and you're seeing world leaders starting to acknowledge that. One of the ones who recently did, in the last 2 years, you've seen Jack Dorsey really pick up, and he's been a big proponent of Vipassana. He came down, I think, to India also, and Sri Lanka and a couple of other places, and he's done a few courses. So the practice has grown. It's spread to I think almost 100 countries. 90 to 100 centers. It's growing. Even post his passing, Vipassana is still doing well. And that's because it was never about one person. He had a teacher, just like, there are teachers now after him as well.
Well, you mentioned the Kundalini awakening. The first question is, what is Kundalini and what was this awakening?
Okay. So Kundalini is this term that's kind of like mystical for everybody. And the idea is to demystify it. That's why I call myself a practical yogi. My design is pretty much done, okay? Just to let you know.
I'm not going to mess with it.
Yeah.
The yin and the yang.
Yeah, well, yin yang. There's no and.
Oh.
right? If you
Okay.
if you have an and, there's a dichotomy. Maybe we take this out so the and disappears.
Right.
See, now it's yin yang. So essentially, Kundalini is nothing but life force. I brought some Palo Santo for you. This is ethically sourced from Peru, and the family I get it from kind of waits for the wood to fall down. They don't really cut the trees because this wood is a bit precious now, and I think the trees are slowly getting endangered. Don't worry, it's not much smoke, so we're just lighting it up for you to hold, and this is a gift for you. Some more Palo Santo for you to light up whenever you want. Smells really nice and it cleanses the space. And so Kundalini essentially is your life force energy that flows through you. To explain it in modern science, our brain has 3 basic regions, right? So you know the reptilian brain, which is connecting your lower spine all the way till your pineal gland. Then there's your neocortex, or the new brain, neo, which is in the front of the cerebellum. And this is where the Matrix got the idea to name their main character Neo, because he's the new brain, the neocortex. And then you have the limbic region with your medulla oblongata and other parts of the brain. I mean, I'm not a scientist, I'm a bio geek, but so these 3 parts of the brain, if you take out the limbic and the neocortex, we're like any other reptile. We're like a dinosaur, right? And if you even observe lizards today, they have the similar structure, which is the spinal cord and the vertebrae going all the way up to your sex organs from your pineal gland. So when a human baby is born, there is some energy through which life force is imbued into the baby. Where does this life come from? So the yogis call this Kundalini, right? And they say it lies dormant in a certain region in your body called Mooladhara, or the root area, the dimension of the root, Moola, root, dimension of the root chakra, you can say. And there are practices to kind of get more sensitive to it. I stay away from the word awakening often because it's already awakened in you. If it was not awakened, you'd probably be lying down in a coma. So your chakras are not blocked, your Kundalini is not unawakened. Since you were born, it's awakened. Our job as humans is to gain sensitivity of it. And gaining sensitivity of it can give you multiple blissful experiences in different dimensions of your life: emotionally, physically, mentally, socially, sexually, financially, etc., etc., etc. And there's 2 ways you can do this. One is finding techniques which are there in Kriya Yoga, in Kundalini Yoga, in Tantra, in Hatha Yoga, etc., to raise the awareness from lower to higher. And the other way is through other techniques like Sufism, through bhakti, which is devotion, through faith, through religion, through worshipping, through many other things where you allow grace to descend. So either humanity rises to become divinity, or divinity descends to experience humanity. These are the only 2 facets of us as an organism. We're human beings here, forgetting that we're spiritual beings. We're also spiritual beings here, enjoying this human experience. This is the dichotomy of the yin-yang. This is the dichotomy and the paradox that exists in all human experience. So Kundalini is this life force energy that flows through you. Our job as humans is to become more sensitive to it. Sometimes we do it without even knowing what it is called or what it is. And maybe most humans have already experienced this, maybe when they saw a sunset, or when they found a bliss moment when they heard a song, or when they were making love, or when they were swimming in the ocean, or when they were in nature, when they saw a beautiful painting. There are times when this, the sensitivity to this energy can, like when you thought of somebody and they called you, this is probably Kundalini at work, right? You dreamt of something, it came true. The patterns you're seeing, all this is Kundalini at work.
When I'm thinking of the same thing and someone else thinks of the exact same thing.
Could be coincidence, but if you both are connected, not just physically, but also energetically, it could be Kundalini at work. Because remember, the limbic brain works with limbic resonance. I'm going to do something now. Why did you repeat that action? It's entrenched into your limbic brain. You feel like doing that, right? So these are your mirror neurons working. And just like the mirror neurons, you have a bunch of other limbic neurons which imitate. So Kundalini transfers through these limbic system. Limbic resonance.
So you were born in Iraq, and then 6 months in, your family moved to Dubai, and you've been raised here ever since. I assume, of course, you have 2 elder sisters, and your parents must have some form of attachment to Iraq. But how do you view it? Do you see it as a place where you can't resonate now, you have no attachment, or you still view it as this
cultural root of sorts?
No, yeah, that's a deep one. I am very proud to be Iraqi, and I resonate with being an Iraqi woman. And I hold it so dear. It's very, very dear to my heart. Unfortunately, I do feel a disconnect with the country itself, with the colors of the country, the texture, the smells. I don't really know what it's like there. I don't know what it's like if I would ever land and, go down and just like see it or smell it or just look up in the sky. And I know like it's pretty much the same thing, but it's different. You know what I mean? Like when I went to London and I studied there, I now can tell you like, oh, I miss the smell of this, or I miss walking down that street. But when it comes to my home country, Iraq is a place that I miss, but I don't know what I miss. It's missing in my life, but I don't know what I miss in it. And so this has always been a disconnect for me. It's always been a crisis, identity crisis, if anything else. I genuinely feel like I wish I knew it better, and I don't blame anybody. I don't even blame my parents for not taking me. I think they have their own sorrow and their own regrets about certain things. I believe that my parents miss their country every day, and they left when they were a lot, they were, aware and awake, and they were adults. We were the children. I was a toddler. My eyes were still closed. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but I was born under attack. Like my mom gave birth to me in the hospital with no people in the hospital. It was flooded. Water was up to their knees. It was getting bombed, and the war ended about 10 days or something, around 10 days after I was born. And so my mom had a bit of a medical issue, and so when she gave birth to me, she couldn't stay with me for almost an entire week, and she gave me to one of the family members and a relative. And at the time, the lady took care of me. May her soul rest in peace. Her name is Hanan, and that's a story that I don't get to say often, because every time I talk about it, I get very emotional, because I feel like I was robbed of a country that is supposed to be my home, and it's hard. It's hard, man. Like I can't ever imagine how it would feel like for my parents to have my mom given birth to me, and then literally like our house was immediately bombed, and my sisters were so young and they were so scared, and my dad was so scared. And he went and he got a van, and he put us in the van, and he drove off. And can you imagine how people must feel? I mean, it's only the beginning of the podcast. I'm already crying, but it's so hard to talk about. So yeah, of course I think about my country every day. I try to sing about it too, but it's too hard to sing about. And I've never told that to anybody. It's too hard to sing about, but I want to. And I want to visit one day, but hopefully get some tissue. Yeah. So yeah, that's that. I'm strong enough to admit that it's very hard for me to sing about it. It's very hard for me to address it, because that's where I'm from and that's who I am. But honestly speaking, like, circumstances were not easy, and my parents did their best to protect us. Imagine being a 20-day-old baby in my mom's arm, and she's running through the war and through bombs, and the sky was filled with colors, but not of fireworks. CNN, at the time, my mom told me that CNN called it, Iraq's skies are lit up. It's lit up as though it's a Christmas tree, but it's missiles and bombings and bombs and so. I hope that I answered your question there.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it is, and it always will be very tough. Of course, it'll be a tough situation, a tough feeling to express. I can resonate slightly when you talk about a country that you never experienced, because I'm from India. Most people who have grown up in Dubai, they come from a certain place where they haven't really visited the country.
Yeah.
A lot of friends that I have from Lebanon, a similar situation as well. So it's a very, but I still like to hear that story, because I feel this part of our personality doesn't really get a chance to express itself.
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
The fact that we still feel a connection, I feel a strong connection to India, but I've never stayed there, So that part of me, I still feel like it needs to be explored a bit more. And of course, it'll always be a part of us, a part of our parents, our family.
But you know what upsets me? What upsets me is that when people confidently and with the audacity that they have go around assuming that I'm either, or anybody is either too embarrassed to talk about their country or too embarrassed to speak in Iraqi or Arabic or the Arabic dialect or whatever it is. But I just want to give people the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're hurting. Maybe it's too difficult for them to address where they're from because they're confused. Maybe they don't know enough. Maybe they don't know any better. Maybe they are not ready. Maybe if they talk about it, they immediately cry.
Of course.
So maybe I'm not in the mood to cry every single time somebody asks me, why don't you speak Iraqi often in front of people who follow you on social media? Why don't you speak Arabic? Why don't you sing in Arabic? Can you imagine the confusion that I have in my mind ever since I was born? Going from one school to the other, one country to the next, not knowing where you're really from, not even having the opportunity to meet your grandparents, not having a big family because all your family is in Iraq, living not a very, lavish lifestyle. There's a huge disconnect, and I'm trying to fill that gap. I'm not lazy. I'm not ignoring the fact. I'm just trying. And if something comes through, then great. If not, you got to be kind. Don't assume things. So that's what upsets me, is that when people assume.
It would be a crime if I don't talk to you about storytelling. And this is a show that was built on stories as well. And one thing I want to check with you is, where do you think the art of storytelling has come from? The original campfire ke saath baith ke regale everyone with stories to today, the different mediums that exist, and also quick your thoughts on what skills make someone a good storyteller in any form.
Okay. So see, storytelling is as old as the paintings on the caves that were there, right? That was a storytelling. People, mat jana, janwar kha lega. Agar aag jalaoge to shayad nahi aayega. Don't step out of your cave when it is dark, right? So that was the first. Stories are used to transmit many things. Morals, education, to entertain, to engage, to empathize. These are all the qualities of stories. And you never remember a person by anything but stories. I can challenge you that if you go back and talk of any individual in your life, kahin na kahin par uske bare mein koi kahani aa jati hai, right? So it is rightly said that the world does not move on atoms, it moves on stories. And those stories keep passing through years and through legends. Some legends remain with us, right? If you read The Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell, the whole idea of great heroic storytelling, which is any film from Lion King to Superman to Star Wars. In fact, George Lucas dedicated a whole thing to him afterwards because of, this book. And this created something called the hero's journey, which are classic ways of telling stories. And from the Odysseus, to our Ved Purans, all of them, to the Dastane Amir Hamza, to Beowulf, these are all classic heroes' journeys. So, there is a form and a structure to great storytelling, which many people don't know. Some people are just naturally good raconteurs. They tell good stories. To tell good stories, you can be interesting, but before being interesting, you have to be interested. Be a sponge, absorb everything, absorb this place, absorb the scenery, listen to the sounds, pay attention to the words, because this becomes the tools that you can use. This is the foliage of the tree. लेकिन पहले tree को एक structure चाहिए. वो structure बहुत simple होता है. A story has 3 parts, a beginning, middle and end. or it has a protagonist, an obstacle, and a goal, or it has a conflict, a setup, a conflict, and a resolution. These are the basics I'm telling you. I'm trying to do a 1-minute crash course in storytelling for you. But if you have these right, you will have a good story. Start by just talking, then add a little bit of color, then start understanding what will you leave the audience with. I keep telling people that कहानी में feelings क्या आ रही है बहुत जरूरी है. राजकुमार हिरानी said, मैं हर सीन को काट देता हूं अगर उस पर आदमी हंस नहीं रहा होता है, रो नहीं रहा होता. I do believe that you need scenes in between to create a little bit of a pause, but that too is a great belief. He believes that you are indulging in feelings when a story is being told. So to take a good story from a bad story, you must simply at the end of the story ask the person who was hearing it, did it leave you with something? If it didn't leave you with anything, it's an incident. It's a छोटा सा कुछ हो गया. कहानी नहीं है. कहानी किस तरीके से आपको चेंज कर देती है. कहानी किस तरीके से आप सोचते हैं यार अगर ये मेरे साथ होता तो क्या होता. You put yourself into the other person's shoes. Ernest Hemingway was once asked in a bar, you write such long stories. छोटी कहानी सुना दो. He said, I can tell you a story in just 6 words. And he took a napkin and he wrote on the napkin just 6 words, which he said, for sale, baby shoes, never worn. Right? Now this is a legend. In 6 words, he makes you think saying, for sale, baby shoes, never worn. What was it? Was it, did the child die? Did the couple divorce? Did they lose the child due to a miscarriage? Did they have no money? Did they have to give the child for adoption? Look at the number of things you can think, but the feeling will never leave you. Right? So that's the reason for great storytelling. And I think in today's day and age, why is first-person storytelling the kind of storytelling we do at Commune, that we encourage people to do, that I teach to people everywhere across the world, is simply because in a world that is so filtered, right? On Instagram, we put up our filtered stories. On Facebook, we put the best moments of our life. On Twitter, we're always ranting, right? On Snapchat also, you're trying to use all these filters and things, TikTok वगैरह. जिंदगी सिर्फ एंटरटेनमेंट ही नहीं है. जिंदगी अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, जिंदगी एम्पैथी है, जिंदगी इंडल्जेंस है. लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं पर there is a deep understanding that needs to happen. And authentic storytelling brings out that side of you that no one knows, which says you are flawsome. You're flawed, but you're awesome. आप एक हो, right? You are one unique person. You have your flaws. I have my flaws. My stories that work with people are the stories that talk of my flaws. When I tell people about that one day when I went to host a show and I thought I'm landing in a swanky hotel and instead was doing a show in a field, people laugh because they say, देखो, इस बड़े आदमी का भी एक दिन था जब ये छोटा उसने फील करा जैसे मैं शायद फील करता हूँ. When I talk about my mother's hospitalization, everybody has this thing of saying, oh my God, even he's been through a personal crisis where he felt that he's helpless. When I tell my radio story about somebody saying you're a liar, I try to tell people that yes, sometimes as creators and presenters, we get carried away with our own God-like image. I used to think I was God when I was on air and suddenly somebody told me, no, you're human and you lie. And these are the stories that work best because they are honest. I think first-person storytelling is creating a movement and it's not something I've started. It's been there since time immemorial. I have to doff my hat to the Moth, which is the best organization in the world, which has been doing storytelling, to This American Life on NPR, if you listen to good podcasts, to Invisibilia, to Radiotopia. These are some shows that I follow religiously because इनमें जो कहानी का कहने का तरीका है वो अलग है. I also look at all the people from 2015 who have come to Commune and who have enriched my life because 2015 में ना मैं 12 to 15 after my film, I was going through this crisis of confidence, right? As a creator, जब कुछ नहीं वर्क करता आपको लगता है मेरी creativity खत्म हो गई. I know nothing. I'm an idiot. I'm a fool. Right? I went through that phase. But people came to me and now those people became my sharing support circle. And Commune is going to be that support circle for every creator. When people ask me, what does Commune do? I tell them, we just try to make every creator be their best version to create a better world. That's it. We will empower you in any way. तुम्हें एक्टर बनना है, हम कोई रास्ता ढूंढेंगे. तुम्हें पॉडकास्टिंग करनी है, हम वर्कशॉप करेंगे. तुम्हें कहानी बतानी है, we will figure that out. Your story is great and it is a film in it, we'll try to connect you with Netflix. We will do whatever we can because I believe today my life has really come full circle in one part and today I am a bridge which connects people to possibilities. And that's what I do. And उसी में जिंदगी गुजर जाएगी. अच्छा रहेगा.
mentioned some amazing qualities of a storyteller, which are on full display on these YouTube videos, which I encourage everyone to check out. The Blanket, which is about your mother's hospitalization, and about do-it-yourself home, and also the one you spoke about, the radio for all of you who sleep tonight, which was by far the most powerful one, I thought.
I did it yesterday, impromptu, and I can't tell you that I had the same response in Dubai. Everybody, people from different nationalities. You know, a girl who's a Palestinian, an Egyptian, an American, everybody, a Scottish lady, everybody turned to me and said that, you know, we could relate, and that's the point. Great stories just transcend any boundaries.